Alright, well. Hello, everybody. Let me see here. I've got to get some light going on here. My God. Alright, there we go. I'm getting somewhere. Making some headway. Hold on. Got one more light I can turn on. This one I gotta use my phone to turn it on. There we go. Alright, so where to begin? As you guys all know, I've had this account as a solo trap. Because I got T4, it's a little fat for a solo trap. But, I thought, well, shit, maybe we can start eating some solos. Maybe we can start eating rallies. Maybe that's what we should try. Because that'd be kind of fun, right? So we're going to give that a go. We're going to try and build it up so that we can do just that. Now, yeah, obviously to some extent. I'm trying to figure out where my chat thing is. God damn it. God damn it. Where the hell is it? Around here somewhere. Oh, well, I guess I just do it the old-fashioned way. Of course I used to have it. I don't know what the darn thing is. Where did it run off to? Well, shit. Oh, that's just my luck. I must have picked a really bad day to stream. Oh well. Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world, I guess. Alright, well, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way then. Pull up YouTube here, we'll pull up chat, and we'll just go that way then. I don't know, sorry for the technical difficulties, but, happens when you're just kind of doing this on the fly, on the shoes of your feet, I guess, right? Anyway, so here's the idea, okay? This ain't gonna be much of a rally trap, right? But it's gonna be enough to do a rally trap, believe it or not. And I've done it enough times that I know I can do it. Main thing is that you want about 700,000 or so T4. You can have 3-ish million here, and you'll be fine. All I gotta do is exchange the snipers for the T4, but to be honest with you, I'm not gonna sweat it because I'll probably just leave them in there. And it'll just be added buffer. Because if I end up losing T3s, I won't shed a tear. Because it won't really bother me that much. Oh boy. So the main thing is I made a couple of banners to kind of lighten the load a little bit. The only other thing I need to do is just kind of micromanage the boosts here where possible. We'll go ahead and turn a 20% on. And we got our gear on, and I think our talents are turned on, so we should be good there. So we are pretty much good to go. So we're going to go ahead and build about 700k across. We're going to try anyway. I don't know if I've got enough speeds to do it, and if I don't, I guess we'll just start funneling gems from the main to do it. So be it. I already got 200k on that side though, so we're going to go ahead and just kind of see if I can micromanage the hour time here a little bit. Set this to 1 hour and 15 if we can. The only reason why is you don't want to try and waste speeds if you can avoid it. So we're going to be right at 4712, and away we go. And then we're just going to be doing that for the next, 10 minutes or so, but that's pretty much going to be the stream. It's just me sitting here pushing a button and doing it over and over again. So that's pretty much that. But the main thing is that we want about 700k. If we can shoot for anything higher, that's fine, but 700k is the magical number. Now, how I get to that number, you may wonder, is a little bit of a curiosity, but it's basically the minimum threshold for a T4 march, not a T5 march. If we're doing T5s, we may need to switch this up a bit, because from what I've gathered, people are a little bit on the troublesome side, as far as what they're capable of in that regard. It's like there's always a real concern that you may end up getting hit by like a T5 max artifact player, and then you get a whole different set of rules that you got to abide by, which is no fun, right? Because you don't want to be on the other end having to get yourself all beaten up to a pulp, only so you could then get beaten up to a pulp again. It's generally not the thing you want to try to do. But I don't know. I've been playing the game long enough that I'd like to think I can do this. We're gonna build some range in here real quick. I try to keep these relatively close if I can help it. That way, because when we start running speeds, we'll just have to kind of compensate. Now we're gonna do that event, I think, and it's kind of more of an accident in and of itself. But we're just gonna kind of try and maximize the rewards here. But right now, I'm just going for a certain number right now. I think that once we get done to 200k, though, we should have been already at that limit or damn well near it. Now, of course, my main account's gonna need some of the same love at some point, but we're just not quite there yet. So let's take a look here. Alright, so train your army. Let's click here real quick. But imagine we're probably there. Yeah. We're almost at the other one now. There's only like one more left. The premium rewards here are kind of crappy. I don't even know why they offer them. They really should have given us both. Don't stop there, you know, with giving me 10 and then telling me, oh yeah, by the way, you can pay 10 or whatever, you know, whatever the amount is, which in this case, buy a $5 pack and then you can get all these extra goodies. It's like, all right, AGG, and I see where you're going with this. I don't care for it, but I'll take the goodies all the same, right? Hey, what's up, Sam? One thing that also comes to mind is that in an hour we've got feudal. Now, I don't think our guild's going to be able to do jack squid. But one thing that I wouldn't mind watching on stream with you guys, since this is probably going to be an hour-long plus ordeal, is we might go over to Baron just to see what's up. Maybe not necessarily playing it, but I don't know. It's always kind of an exciting time to be alive. Alright, so right now we're done with both the Hell event and the solo, so we're good there. And then challenge event, we're not really getting anything on, but that's fine. Wait for the next 5-minute rotation. We'll go ahead and grab all of our men quests here real fast. Hey, what's up, Tony? I would say the only thing that kind of comes to mind, and now you might be wondering, well, how was KVK last week? The reason I didn't upload anything is it was kind of shitty. Like, it was, I would like to say that, you know, if you've watched the stream, you probably know why, but I basically got my main account capped. Because I thought I could take 4 mil with 3 mil, and I guessed wrong, and I got myself capped in one shot with a rally, which kind of sucks. But that's what I get for being a little overzealous. You know, I was thinking, oh, yeah, I could probably take it. Because I was looking at it, and he had like a mil cav, he had 600,000 T5 imp. And I just, for whatever reason, I knew the guy was sitting in imp gear. And I thought, surely he's going to sing cav this time. I guessed wrong and sat in range when it was an imp march. And had I just not changed phalanx and sat in cav like I thought he was going to be an imp, I would have probably been fine. But the one thing that I hate about mixed rallies is that when somebody sends in like a million T5 in a march, it's easy to spot what comp they're in. What happens when there's 600, 700,000 T5 in one imp comp, but then 900,000 T4 in the other? It's highly misleading to look at that and assume what their composition is, and then you have to guess what their phalanx is. And I was not going to be able to just look at his gear and go, boom, because he was sitting in mixed gear. So it's like, shit, how do you... You know, you're basically at a roll of a dice as to who's what composition and what phalanx, and you've only got maybe 10, 15 seconds to make a decision. Am I gonna go for the new skin? See, the problem with that is and this is something like anytime IGG does anything, right? It's a little misleading because you look at it, right? You go, yeah, let's get that new skin, guys. Let's do it. You know, and it's limited edition and all this shit, right? But what they don't tell you is how do you acquire it? Oh, fantastic. Somebody turned on the fucking alarm. Great. That's gonna be annoying. Hang on, guys. I'm gonna turn this down. I'll be right back. Alright, just a typical day, my mother cooking. And of course, every time she starts cooking and you get smoke, and smoke alarms. Oh boy, no. But yeah, no, it's just like, what's misleading about this, right, is, okay, you gotta get to the top 3. Everybody after that is a 30-day, 7-day, and then after that, it doesn't matter. So only really the top 300 across kingdoms are going to have that skin. I mean, see, the thing is, right? People with a stupid amount of troops can't seem to take a rally without taking 2 to 3 million reds. Meanwhile, okay, what I can tell you is you got to know who you're taking a hit from. You're taking maxed hits from people that are like, you know, like shit. I'd say Culture's crew, maybe even like somebody like Tashi or anybody that's rolling in with those 1000% freaking, like anybody in that regard, and you're gonna start taking rallies from them. You're gonna have to be near or somewhat on par stat wise, otherwise you're just gonna get your ass completely reamed apart. Because the game is not designed to make it fun for those people at all. But shit, I don't know. I mean, let me see if I can find a report. Do we even have a report? I might still. Maybe. I don't know. Did I even save those reports? I wonder if I did. No, I don't even think I saved those reports. But I've taken rallies before with a solo trap comp. That's the funny thing, right? And a solo trap comp, just ignore the T4, okay? It's 3.1 million snipers, 3.5 million into 2 sides. You could even go lower. You can go like 2.5 mil even. You don't even need any sharpshooters even. All right, you can go as low as you want, but that's the typical 180 million my solo trap composition. And the only reason it works the way it does, really, and this is something that I think a lot of people either gloss over. It's kind of like when, you know, somebody's taught to fish, but they don't know why it works the way it does. And it's really not uncommon, right? You'll have a lot of people that look at it and they don't fully understand what it is exactly doing. But like even now, you know, people are noticing that IGG updates something, and people look at it and they're terrified because they can't help but wonder: is IGG making it easier for my troops to die? Is IGG tweaking the game, making it more difficult for me to play the game? Is it possible that defending rallies may not actually be a good idea anymore? Like, these are quite good questions to ask, and the game does frequently change, you know, enough that people start to notice, like, yeah, they like add one little familiar, like Jade Worm, for example, and it's no big deal when he's got some counter bonuses, and people are like, okay, we gotta get the counter bonuses, because, you know, how else is the trap gonna keep up? But then they throw in the army talent, now you've got a 9% reduction and freaking losses, and it's like, okay, that may not be such a good thing, right? And then you start tacking on all these other army abilities with the familiars, and people are like, oh, I don't know. And the thing is, right, after a certain point, if your core stats also get all sorts of screwy, right? Which is to say that your HP is now a factor. Like that's a serious problem. Right, because people are naturally attuned to, you know, getting away with not necessarily focusing on their HP stats anymore, but more so their attack stats. So when they start looking at this and they go, well, shit, I got 600-700%, I should be fine. But then you walk into a room with a guy that's got like freaking close to 1200 and he's probably rolling around 300 to 400% HP. It's like, yeah, that ain't gonna fly anymore. Like you're gonna have to have that much more, because when you think about these comps, right, you're looking at something like 3.5 million. You just need to look at the mic count to get an idea of what you're really blocking, okay? Because what you want to know is what's the equivalent of that total in relation to T4 or T5. What screws a lot of people up now is that a lot of people used to look at T4 totals, and that was how the compositions were built. Now you have to kind of prepare with the idea in mind that what happens if it's mostly T5. Because then it gets all sorts of screwy, and you know, after a certain point, it becomes almost negligible. Because and this is true in like even some other games. What happened is when they added T1, T2, T3, T4, and then they didn't add any tiers, this game was kind of like fundamentally set up in such a way that you could go 2 tiers behind and set that up as a blot. Well, what happens now is you have T5, you got that 1 extra block now. So now you're either going to be buffering in T2 a lot, which sometimes you're just going to have to accept the fact that you're going to lose T2, or you buffer it with more T3s, or buffer it with more T4s, or buffer it with, and eventually you're either on par or there's too much for it to not be obvious of what you're trying to do. So it makes it very difficult for people to be able to trap in the game. And even the people that are like spending stupid amount of money on the game and that are probably on par with the people that are doing rally trapping, it's kind of crazy when you look at, like, you know, I think a Duck Hunter, for example, it's kind of crazy that somebody who could sit in like Mythic Rally, you know, all the same shit, right? You know, just comparably give them the same heroes, the same gear, and give them almost practically the same arsenal in terms of stats, and yet there's always that discrepancy. Because if you get countered, you're screwed. And that's been that way. It's been that way forever. Like, if you get countered, you're screwed. If you go on type, you're still screwed. Like, then it becomes a game of whose stats are better, and you're almost always the loser in that equation. So you're you're always going to be at a loss. So then you're trying to cover for up to 600k, and you can't. Infirmary-wise, it's almost impossible to do that. You're always going to trickle over, so you're always at a loss. But then the argument is, well, at least if I lose, say, 1.5 million or so T2, and the guy's sending, say, 1.5 million, I kill 700,000, I'm winning, right? Well, yeah, you are if you're thinking about it from the gross total. But the problem with rallies in general in this game is, it's like, you got to really effectively compare it to like what the damage a solo trap can do to like a gryphon trap, or even a garrison trap. Because like a garrison trap, a single person can send, say, 200,000 to 300,000, and he'll send 2 marches and fill up an infirm, and every march after that is all dead. I will do more collective damage to a single person in solo trapping and garrison trapping than a rally will ever do. It takes multiple rallies before anybody ever starts to notice it, and even then, a lot of the time those guilds are already funneling, you know, with a guild bank right beside them, funneling resources to heal so that they can just rinse and repeat. And it's not that they don't take losses. They're losing a little bit over, you know, 10, 20% roughly every time, but it's just, it's not as it's like the loss collectively is not as bad than what it could be if you were to, you know, implement that on a single person. So I always like to think that, you know, when I build this comp up to say 300 mil, it's going to be enough to eat a single rally, just so that I can proceed to rally somebody else with my main. That's the only thing I'm really setting it up for, and that's it. Beyond that, not much else. There's not really any sense in doing it any other way. Because really, if you do the math, right? Say like I took, I don't know, like 3.5 million. You go to the details tab. You look at the might. Let me see if I can actually, let me see if I can do this maybe this way. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Oh, we're going to try it. Hold on. Here, let me see if, let me try this. See if I can get a calculator on here on screen. You guys can kind of see what I'm talking about here, but it's a little easier to explain if you can actually see what I'm talking about. There we go. Oh, cool. It's smart enough that it can even pick up on what I'm asking for. But anyway, okay, so basically, right here you got your totals, right? And all you need to know really is so if you're sitting on, say, 3.5 million, you multiply that by 8, you've got about 28 million might just in that unit type. Now, if I was to send typically 2,375,000 in a single rally, and that's all T4, okay, you typically want to look at that, and you're going to see the total might count on something like this is 36, right? You multiply that, you've got 85,500,000 or so to deal with. Okay, so 85,500,000 is going to be a fair amount of might, and your 28 million or so in T2 is definitely not going to cover it. So then you're going to need to basically look at your comp. And so, like, for example, if I got 3.1 million range, that's 24 might times 3.1, which is 74 million, plus the 28 million from before, which is 102 million. So roughly speaking, from an 85 million drop, there is about a difference of about 17,400,000 might off the total. From which, you know, roughly speaking, in my head, that means that you need to be roughly about 20 million above the total for it to be able to do anything, right? Now, the problem there is, okay, what do we do about T5? Now, obviously, in my account here, you can see I don't actually have the ability to view T5 because I do not have T5, but worry not, I do have T5 on my main. So we can get a pretty good idea of what that number looks like. Okay, so if we get onto my main here, T5s are kind of interesting in that they're 48 might apiece, and then obviously they've got a little golden star, which implies that one day there will be something higher than T5. It's only implied. That scares the shit of a lot of people, and it should. Because just like how I was saying that, you know, eventually they'll add the remaining abilities for the pack familiars, the next step is going to be T6, T7, and probably T8. In that order. And they'll probably not do it all at once either. They'll probably gradually do it so that they can yank more and more out of the game. Because that's how you do it. If you're a game company, you're going to slow roll it. There's no way in hell you'd chuck shit at everybody all at once. It's just a slow death crawl. And people who've been playing the game for 3 or 4 years already know what I'm talking about. But that said, okay, so like let's say if I take 48 and multiply it by, say, the same amount, which typically a T5 rally does not go all the way. They're usually like 1.5 to 1.6 in my experience. I have seen some that go as high as 2,375,000. And let's assume for a moment nobody added any buffer. It was all T5s. Okay. That's 114 million. Now, off of what my original comp was, which was 102 million, okay, you can kind of see where the problem is. You're down 12 million might off of an existing total, not to mention you're also out on stats. Okay, and after a certain point, if you add too much T2, it also becomes negligible. Because you can only have, like, I don't know, split across 4 squads, you can only have so much in one squad for it to be worthwhile. And what that total amount is, I mean, I've always thought that was just a divider. But to be honest with you, it's also a lot more complicated than that because you have morale. And each squad that dies is then collectively adding to the next squad and so on. Which kind of adds to the confusion, which only makes matters worse depending on whether or not your wall was up or not when you got hit. Because, like, if somebody hits you, and let's say your wall's down, your formation gets all fucked up when they hit you. You'll notice this if you go back in a report. You'll notice that if your wall is up, it will do something completely different than if your wall was down. I mean, the rules will change just ever so slightly, but enough that someone, you know, will casually freak out, especially even if you're, you know, just sitting here taking rallies and shit, right? Especially the people that take multiple rallies in a row. I can do all sorts of weird things that nobody anticipated, right? But I suppose that, you know, now you're doing 114 million on a T5 march, which it really typically doesn't. I've seen a lot more 1.6 million marches, which at 48, that's 76,800,000. And then the remainder of that 1.6 million is what, 2375 minus 1.6, which leaves 775,000, which is, you know, 48 for T5, 36 for T4, so it's 27 million. So you take the 76 million or so and add that to it. You're about, oh shit, I divided, whoopsies, 27.9. Oh shit, I gotta do my math again. God damn it. But the main thing is to say, if you take 48 times 1.6, which is 76,800,000, and then you add from that your total, which would be 775,000, which, I mean, I'll just remember 775,000. Do this right. Okay, times 36, which is 27 million. So you take that plus 76,800,000. It's 104,700,000. Okay. Now again, going off of what that comp I'm just giving you earlier. Okay, we're only covered for 102 million, so you're already above 2 million. You don't have a 20 million threshold, which obviously causes problems. So to be able to defend a rally that's got T5 in it, what I was thinking is, okay, if I do 700,000 and I do that times 36, that's 25 million, and I've got 3.5 million, and I multiply that by what, 8? That's 28 million. Naturally, that's not a stupid amount of T4, but it's also not a stupid amount of might either, right? Because when it's all said and done, the T2 count here, in relation to the T4 count here, doesn't sound like you're going to be able to hold much, because that's 45-ish, roughly, onto the total, which means that if you do get countered, you're going to lose pretty much everything. But if you counter them, you'll actually still survive, because it has kind of a 2xing factor on it most of the time when you're in counter. So you can usually handle about 2x of what your total is up against. But generally speaking, the more stats they have, the more damage that they can do. Especially if they have pack 5, because of the discount damage that comes along with it. So, say if I'm sitting with 700,000 T4s in here, for example, it'll be sufficient when you're sitting on somebody that's sending like 1.6 million, because that's only 57 mil. It's not a whole lot more. So these people that send these 1.5, basically rallies that are not full completely, or even the people that are sending a full rally, but they're typically not going to send it all T4. They'll usually buffer it, and it's usually like a 75%, bonus off of it. So if I took 275, I just did 0.75 on it, that's typically how much T4 is in there, which is only 64 mil. And unless they send all PT4, which now is not usually as significant as it used to be. I mean, most of the people that I see that are significantly rallying people seriously are using T5. I mean, to be able to effectively counter that, this is why you see people do like 2.5 million T4 in their backline, because that's going to give you a straight 90. And then you do 3.5 million on top of that, or 4 mil, or 6 mil, or even people that are doing like 20 million. And that's going to give you 160 million might, just in T2s. Yeah, that's the funniest thing about the whole ordeal, is that people that have 20 million T2 are literally 160 million might just in troops. And they'll do that, 3 times. So you're doing 160 million times 3. You're adding almost 500 million might to your core just in T2s. And then they'll do 2.5, 2 mil. It's more typical to do 2 mil, which is 72 million times 3. So it's closer to like 800 million to 600 million in that range, which is still not really all that sufficient, because most of the time that's just in troop might, and they have to make amends somewhere. So usually they try to stay low on might. It's pretty hard to do. So a lot of them will take the 20 or so and they make it more like 10. And that's fine for rally party traps, I think, because if you're doing 10 million, and again, I don't know, it's one of those things that, it's like, depending on the kind of numbers that you're aiming to do here, whether you're trying to do 10 million and you're doing, say, 8 off of 80 million times the total, which would be 3, you're doing 240 million might just in T2, and then you do an additional 2 million on top of that times 3. That's more like 440-ish, which is a little bit easier to manage. Like a 500, that's really not uncommon to see the rally party traps around 400 to 500 million might. Some of them will dip about 100 million more if they're adding research, like familiars, pack 5s, all that shit. So ultimately, what is the goal here is, I'm aiming for the people that are going to be ill-experienced, maybe don't plan on filling the rally, or if they do, aren't going to be going, head over tails. And those are going to be the people that I'm going to basically target. your full T5s are going to be still, with this kind of composition, are going to be enough. I'm going to need a lot more T4 to be able to handle that. And since we know it's 48 might or so for it, I guess I can, theoretically put up a composition in mind that would handle it. Because let's assume for a moment someone was a complete jackwad and sent a full 2,375,000 T5. That's absolute worst case scenario. It's 114 million. Okay. If I'm to divide that by, say, I don't know, 36, that's about 3.2 million-ish T4s, which, okay. And if I did that and, say, divided that by 8, that's about 14-ish million T2. So, practically speaking, I can probably suffice to say if I took, say, 1.5 million and did that, and then took that from 114, which I'm going to just basically tab out of here. Take that minus 54. That'd be 60 million on the spare, which would be 7.5 million T2, which is manageable for T5s. Like you can pop 8 million T2 and 1.5 million T5s. Probably will be sufficient. I don't know if it'd handle a full T5 merge, though. Only because it's overly reliant on T2. And so I'd like to think, the more T4 you have in here, like 2.5 mil to 3 mil is probably a safer bet. But you're also going to have a hard time selling that to somebody because the might cost is going to be too high. That's the only downside. So now, of course, I could take the 3.1 million range out of the equation completely and leave 700k in here, and it'll take solos all day long and still be the same might, believe it or not. So you don't necessarily need to use 3.1. You get the equivalent of that is 700k, and still be around 2.5, 250. So, with it on, I'll probably be closer to 300, but that's okay. It's not willy-nilly great, but it's not bad either. Okie dokie, now. Alright, we're ready for the next event, so let's just go ahead and plug away. Do these next. That's kind of just kind of the, I don't know, how do you say the math behind it? The real question then is, what kind of familiars, what kind of stats, what kind of gear, what kind of, what situation are you in? You're almost always in the worst situation possible. More often than not, you're not able to switch gear in time. And chances are the guy who's hitting you's probably got max artifacts and max fucking gear, and he's probably going to hit like a freight train. And so you sit here and think, well, hell, if that's what you're up against, you're probably going to lose more often than not. You're going to lose most of the time. And this is the problem with rally trapping, is that more likely you are to lose than you are to gain. So most of the people that I know who do rally trapping are actually, really, they're just the billion might rally leads that are just wanting to move kingdoms. Is really who they are. They're basically the people that are just wanting to shed might, and they're just like, I'm going to sit here and play AFK for like the next week or so until somebody rallies me, and then I'm just going to sit there and take a bunch, and then I'll leave. And that's, that's a reasonable way to approach it, because otherwise you got to kill the troops, and you just don't want to do that, because you either do it by rallying other people, or you do it by taking a bunch of rallies. But either way, you're forced in that situation because IGG doesn't really give you a choice. Because the moment you want to move kingdoms, you're either going to pay more money than it was worth to actually migrate in the first place. Which just really doesn't make it any sensible for any natural purpose, reason, cause, anything of that nature. Like, you're just basically in a tough position, to say the least. You really don't have a whole lot of choices. It's not all that great. And that's kind of the difference between, I think, what typically people are doing versus what they could be doing. Like, you can't migrate, so you get forced into that position to do things that you normally wouldn't do. That's just kind of the way it is, but I don't know. I'm always going for a special number, but then I'll probably stop and we can just kind of talk. Just kind of have a look at, because the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, 700k is good and all, but it'd be better to have 1.5 million or even 2 mil, because then I can take rally party type hits rather than just single rally hits. I'm really trying to build this around the idea that I'm going to take a single rally, because I don't see this account being able to take multiple rallies. I mean, maybe if I have enough time, I could do it, but again, it's really circumstantial. It's all dependent on what's going on at the time. Alright, so there, we've got our hell event completed. There's, you know, another 24 hours, some fragments, you know, nothing significant. At this point, we should be able to get our rewards for our, where the heck it is, here it is. We should be able to get the rewards for the final stage now. There's that. And that's pretty much that event. Just kind of a know-nothing, nobody gives a shit type event, but festival is kind of cool. I will say one thing that I kind of thought was nice is I like the hamster. I'm really liking the hamster. Although out of all of these that, you know, as far as an option goes, oh hey, what's up, demo? Hello, hello. Yeah, I was just talking some rally trap comps not that long ago. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to build 700,000 T4s. And I think I can eat a rally that way. A rally. Not 2 rallies, not 3 rallies. A rally. I think I can do it with 700k. As long as I'm in counter. That's the only thing. I don't care what my gear is at the time. I'm just going to be looking at, okay, is it inf? Okay, we go cav wedge. If it's range, then we go inf wedge. If it's, you know, and so on and so forth. You know, it's like, that's the only practical way to go about it, as long as you're in counter. But, you know, obviously, between the wedges and the phalanxes, I don't know. The one thing that I've always thought was interesting is the last time I looked at it, it does some weird shit. When you have a wall, it will do one thing, and if you don't have a wall, it does something else entirely with your phalanx. Which has confused the living hell out of me. Because I had this one guy, and I don't know if I still have a report, maybe I do. But he was a solo, and it was just weird as shit, because I looked at it, I'm like, wait, you know, if I'm reading this on paper correctly, I should have gotten fucking slaughtered. Like, it didn't look right at all. See, let me see if I can find it. Because it wasn't that long ago. It was in the middle of KVK, and I was just kind of... I mean, don't get me wrong, KVK was pretty goddamn boring. There wasn't a whole lot that happened, so I didn't really care. Because I basically got capped by Brutal, which, that sucked. I got a one-hitter quitter type rally on a base, and I fucking took it like an idiot. But, see, I think it was this guy. This AV guy. Where is solo? Because I know it's in here. I think it was this. So this guy came by and hit me. He's 3 billion. He's got pretty good gear. I'm in Cav Phalanx. He's in range wedge. And then to add insult to injury, he sent range, and he did that kind of damage. And I'm like, what the hell? What is going on here? Because you're looking at it, I'm in Cav Phalanx, this is range, how the hell is that happening? How does that work? And when I look at the battle, this is the part that, like, fucking threw me off. I'm like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? Because they charged out. So my wall was still up, and for whatever fucking reason, even though I was in Cav Phalanx, it didn't matter because it threw me into Inf Phalanx. I saw this and I'm like, what the hell? The fuck is going on here? Because then, as you can see, like, what the... You know, even though I lost 80% right off the... As you can see, they didn't have any buffers. Well, there you go. But as you might imagine, I looked at this and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Because that makes a huge fucking difference. A huge fucking difference. And that's the only thing that saved my keister. I should have lost a shitload more. I should have been on the... That should not have been a cap. That should have been a complete freaking, complete U-turn on that. It could have been so much worse. But yet, you're looking at it, and he sent nothing but range and some trebs. That's it. He didn't send infantry. He didn't send cavalry. And I had my wall. And, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck. I've never seen that. It almost always does something a lot worse. And mind you, this is with, long shot. He's got squad attack in there. He's got 200% army attack in there. He's got 600% range attack in there. And he's got a shittier range bonus, but it's still a tickler effect for 4 times. It's like, that should have been a lot worse. But, it's like, I don't know, you see that over and over again, and it just kind of makes you wonder, but I don't know. So anyway, basically my account's too fat to be a solo trap. I'm guilty of doing this not once but twice now. Made a solo trap, made it into a rally trap. Only in part because I got too carried away with the research. The last time I did it, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to build up and I'll just tack T4, not thinking about what the outcome of that was going to do. And now it's like, okay, I'm 250. It's a hard sell to get anyone to solo me now. It's like, I try, but they just rally me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make it so I can eat a single rally. That's what I'm going to do. That's how we're going to handle this. So I'm going to aim for about 700k across. That's my goal here. I don't know if I'll bother with the T3 count. I don't know. I may just let that just shred, or I may just leave it there. I honestly don't know what to do with it yet. But what I will do is pump this up to 700k is what I will do. And something else I need to check is just how much resources am I sitting on? 3.8 billion, 1.8 billion, 2 billion, 1.9 billion. I might have to stop after a certain point because of resources, but thankfully I'm just, I'm just going to have to plug and play, and just kind of see where it gets us. But the main thing is we're going for the hell event score here. I'm trying to get the most amount of bonuses you can. I don't necessarily care for doing it all at once, because once you do that, you don't really gain anything from it. Now, Feudal is coming up here in about 35-ish minutes. And, of course, I got my main account, so we can kind of plug and play with that. Because, as you can see, I've got my main here. And my main's not doing so hot either on troops, as you can tell. It might be thrown through 1.4 billion, but it doesn't have hardly anywhere near the amount of troops that my alt does. It's kind of funny. But that's the beauty of when you have to like migrate your main account. Like you can hardly do it. The game does not make it fun to move. Never has. And then I finally get here, and then of course, fucking Kremdor's like, yeah, so we're gonna leave. I'm like, God, just like, I just got here. God damn it. It happens every time, though. It's like the moment I show up, it's like, yep, everybody's ready to leave again. I'm like, well, knowing my luck. Alrighty, let's see here. I'm gonna go, even though it doesn't matter, I'm gonna probably focus down on the physical-based attack, I think. That's what I'm gonna do. And that should be fine. I don't know if it'll kill him, but it'll be good. Yeah, it killed him. Cool. Didn't get shit for rewards, though. And if I took out, like, a few loot, I probably would have gotten better for rewards there, but that's fine. My main account's going to be another thing we're going to work on build-wise at some point, but that one I'm going to wait for a while on, because chances are if we end up moving, then I don't want to... As you can see, I don't have a whole lot for resources either. I got a fuck ton of gold, though. I have a fuck ton. I don't know what to do with it all. I got too much gold. Gold's not a problem. It's just everyday frickin' resources that are. And it looks like my alt's kind of following suit on that. So, oh, I just missed the days when I could bank raid. That was a good time. When you could go back, go find a kingdom like that, and you just walk up, find a bank, wipe the bank out, and then build your troops. That was so much easier than having to go and, like, tear apart your bank's resources, or even go through your own bags. Those were the days. That was a lot easier. But I don't know. It's just it's so it's not even atypical anymore to have to do that every time. I just hate that. But even the bargain store is kind of a rip off. I just like the. I mean, even the elixirs. I got those and then I was like, I wish I didn't do that. I don't really care for the bargain store. It's kind of one of the most atypical. You'd think it'd be a bargain, but no, it's not. It's just the lie is what it is. It's just a very, very well educated lie. Oh, what did I get? I got this. Okay, cool. Ah! I wanted my reload. That sucks. Oh, maybe I'll get my reload. Maybe I won't. They got their glamorous gazebo skin. Well, what did they do with the skin? Because they had the pony. The pony was like, you know, the one trick pony. I honestly thought this was going to remain like under the shelf, but Azure Melody. So it's got a pawn and a harp, that pink little butterfly. Ah. See, I don't know whatever happened to the $100 skins, but they had like 2 of them, or 3 of them actually. They had this, and this. I still think this is the best one out of all of the 3 that they have, just because this one looks a hell of a lot more menacing. This reminds me of Twisted Metal from like the day of PS2. And let me tell you, fucking Twisted Metal is something else. That shit was, you know, that was like decrepit as fuck watching a goddamn ice cream truck turn into a rocket ship that could literally eat other vehicles apart. You know, that was not, you know, what do you say? Wasn't understandably. It'd be kind of cool if NGG ever. This is something I've always wondered where they're going with this, right? Because you can kind of tell that T6 and T7 and T8 will eventually be a thing. You can see it plain as day. It's just a matter of when. But then you look at, like, you know, okay, here you got all your familiars, right? There are a couple still that don't have an ability, and I wonder if you guys know them. You can just kind of scroll through here, and as you can see, I don't see any of them in here, do you? Right? They all got abilities. That's what it looks like, right? But then if you look at my main account, where, of course, I've got pretty much everything tackled on here. Give me a second here. Yeah. Like having to kind of micro jump over here. There's a whole different story being told here. So like Mecha Trojan, we don't got any abilities on at the moment. That's kind of interesting. You know, so it makes me wonder what does Mecha Trojan have to offer at some point? What about our Title Titan? You know, Title Titan's not got an ability, so we know that can happen. You know, we don't know when, but we know it could happen. Now, when you look at somebody like Hellrider, right, they always do things like this where I'm like, ooh, that's kind of an interesting ability. I actually kind of wonder what Hellrider would be like for a solo trap or a rally trap, because that could be a pretty big deal if you could petrify a squad for 11 seconds. You know, if they're missing out of their 4 squads, one of their squads for 11 fucking seconds, that's a pretty big deal. But the big downside is that 7% minimum. So then it's like, well, shit. Because where you got this, you only need 4% to fall. So it's like, yeah. Kind of the same deal with a lot of these other abilities. It's like they trigger off a lot sooner. Except for like these damage over time ones. Where they don't pop off until, you know, like even in this case, even the shield ones don't pop off until 12. So it's kind of somewhere in between. If you look at Vermophobia, I think that one's the longest one of them all. Or it doesn't proc until 15% of it's fallen. That one's at 10. Shields are all at 12. These are at 10. You can kind of start to pick up a trend, though, whenever you look at it. Like, you can see how they're balancing it. This one's the most interesting to me because it kicks in at 5%, which I found to be, in my experience, a pretty helpful bonus. Like, this I think is a very, very handy thing to have. And I've come to really like having it. Because it kicks in at 5%, which that can make a pretty big deal when you're sitting there taking a hit. These are at 10. And this one's just at the start. This increases the HP 10. You bring it up a whole whopping 80%. I kind of wonder what happens if a person were to, like, because when you think about it, right? And when a rally comes through, they're basically trying to live longer and do a lot of damage. So their HP and attack are going to need to go up quite a ways. When you're defending, I kind of feel like the opposite is true. You need a lot of HP and a lot of attack to be able to thwart off the hit. But you also kind of need, like, a way to mitigate all that damage coming through. You can either do it in one of two ways. You either drop their HP, which I think is the pretty helpful way to go about it, but you have to kind of know what it is they're sending, especially if you've only got 3 slots. So then you kind of have to predict the type of march that you're going to eat, or you just buff everything up to a certain point. Like these ones that give 15 are not very good, but the ones that are like dropping HP by 40 are fairly significant. The ones that increase it by 80 are, noticeably beneficial, but the army defense is probably impractical. The 15% is not negligible, but probably not as helpful. It just gives you the luxury of not knowing. But like, even the Grim Reaper doesn't have a talent. So really, there's like 3 out there that we know of. Mecha Trojan, Grim, and Title that don't have an army talent. So we know that there's 3 sets of abilities out there that could be added to the game at any time. We just don't know when that'll be. And based on the pathing of where these have been going, because they've got 3 600%, 3 150%. They've got 1 addressing situations where your HP goes up. You've got 3 that address what happens when you want to drop it down by 40%. I wonder if where they're going to take that is probably going to be like this is dropping somewhere in between the 6 to 7% range, and it's petrifying. And you've already kind of got this one in this case is kind of unique since it reduces damage. And I know how they are about reductions, because reductions they're not typically afraid of. If we look in gear, I bet you we can kind of theoretically pick out what those stats and the new talents probably will be. Because if you look at, say you go into cabinet, well, it's not cabinet, it's like all equipment, I think. And you just tap on the filter will tell you all the different stats that they play with. And so like right now, I don't think we have anything addressing army debuff or HP debuffs. We don't have anything that addresses capacity. Of course, they don't bother with traps, which is still a running gag in my opinion. They need to revisit wall trapping again, because I feel like they've left it behind, and it's silly to leave leaving a mechanic out like that and not doing anything about it is kind of weird. I know they've got 1 ability addressing travel speed. As far as wonder of travel speed, I wonder if they've got some stuff addressing energy saver and max energy and damage boost. I don't see any benefit with merging boosts and familiar skill boosts. Pack attack, it doesn't really make any sense for them to adjust that. So that really only leaves them with crafting, reduced upkeep, training speed, production rates, maybe. Forging speed, maybe. Construction research, maybe. There's 3 ways I can think of how they could go about that. They've already addressed construction and research help speeds. They don't really do anything in the event. I could see that, though. I could very easily see like crafting capacity and crafting speed. I could see them tacking on a familiar for that. Giving an ability that would like temporarily increase the capacity or temporarily increase the amount of speed you have. That wouldn't be atypical of them. I could see something like that. They could cater to that crowd. All the same, though, they could just as easily pull something completely out of the blue, like something that addresses wonder bonuses, which I think is more likely because Mecha, Title, and I believe Grim are also high-end Pack 5, so they're going to probably cater to the people that are probably in that crowd, not the small players on the bottom of the totem pole. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But that's just one of those things that it kind of comes to mind, and I just sit here and think about it. And it's like, I don't know what they're going to do about those familiars, but I know if and when that happens, it's going to adjust something along those lines. Or they'll pull something completely out of left field for all I know. But let's see, we got 16 minutes to burn. Of course, Guildfest is pretty much done at this point, and I don't do a very good job of Guildfest at all. I do like 800. I do like a bare minimum 120 to 150. Where, freaking Crimdor is doing 1700 on 5 quests. Freaking blowing it out of the water. And of course, we're only at rank 7, so I don't know if we'll ever actually get to the top of the elite top, but I doubt we'd be able to hold it anyway. Since it's just kind of worthless to get anywhere in there above where you can get anything meaningful. I mean, the only thing that they really kind of added this time around that I would prefer to have are these training speeds. Since it seems like we're going to run into that more and more often. Well, I don't know. We're 200k across, 3.1 million range. So if I were to add another 100k across, it's costing me 5 million resources each per 5,000, roughly. I'm going to add another 50 million to my coffers that are going to go out. So that means I'm going to be closer to 3.2 just on that alone. You go for 2k. That's pretty good. Yeah, because if you're doing anything higher than like 1,000 in my book, you're doing a lot better than like something like I would do. And that's because I fucking don't have the time, or at least that's what I like to get excuse. I like to say, yeah, I can't do it. I probably could. I don't have the fucking patience to sit there and wait for the solo events, or the hell events, or the challenge events. I don't have the fucking patience. It drives me nuts every time they come up. But I'm thinking I'm probably going to burn through 200 to 300 mil. Which is going to put me dangerously close to the bottom. I don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather get a majority of that all filtered through. I wonder... I could probably take my main account and spot around and see if there's actually anything to be had. There's Damo. So let's look at Dama for a moment here. Hold on a minute. I didn't even know Dama was here. Dama freaked me out. What the fuck is he doing here? What the? But so he's 726. Yeah, he's in that typical range of what I would expect from a multi rally. Which for the kill count, it's also kind of like indicative of it. Like anybody that's in that 500 to 600 mil range is more than likely. We've also got VIP 15, so he's got the VIP level going for him. The only other thing I wonder about, see, he has hardly any attacks, all defenses. So somebody could look at that point blank and just know that, yeah, this guy's probably a trap. Because normally people don't have, but when you only got like 50 attacks, it's like, ooh, okay. Well, let's see how many times he's lost. So he's got 168 million troop loss, which is not terrible. Because if you look at my main account, it's much worse. Much, much worse. I think it's like 279 million lost to 752 million kills. So I've lost almost 300 million to an 800 million total, which means I've lost more than I've killed. Really, typically. My win rate's not as good either. It's like 76%, whereas his is an 88.5%. However, I've also done 16,210 attacks to a meager 50, almost. So there's a slight difference there, but my defense count's actually roughly about the same. I've got about 2,200 defenses, and he's got 270 failed. I have 3,126 failed defenses. Now, if I look at my alt here, I actually don't know what those look like at all. So, yeah, the failed defense count's like fucking astronomically high. Yeah, maybe here in a bit, if you give me a minute. Yeah, sure. Anyway. I don't know. It's just typical, I guess. That you're 9.2 mil, 18 million kills. 612 million destroyed might. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's one of those things that nobody gives a flying fuck about anymore. Used to have people who would bitch about score all the time, but like, here you got 16 billion for that. That's pretty good. It's not that bad. Not bad at all. Coliseum ranking is probably all sorts of fuck now, though. He got a fair bit of resources he's had. He's got 356 captures, 20 executions, and 50 escapes. Apparently, Damo does not do a whole lot of killing of the leaders here. He doesn't do a whole lot of that execution shit. He got only 20, but he leaves most of the time. He lets them go. That's what we can look at. You know, by just looking at this, I can just tell you, oh yeah, you typically end up having to let them go more often than not. Hold them until they escape type deals, probably, but only had his leader executed once and captured 5 times, though. Not bad. No bounty collected, though. Of course, I don't know if Damo's sitting in the stream or not still, but kind of interesting. And like anything else, you know, it's like my composition on my main's complete trash now. Now that I've had to completely rebuild. And it's kind of frustrating that I've got to go back through and rebuild all that shit again, but yeah, it's just the way it is. We got 15 minutes until the feudal war starts. Now, as a jackass, I can tell you that I've done this enough times. I haven't done it since the new updates, though. But I used to go in basically port here on my alt, and then I would be an ass and scout a bunch of people, and then I'd garrison trap. And I kid you not, there's still people that still think that, you know, the garrison trapping method that I told people about 2 years ago doesn't work. It's the noob way to do it. It's not the way that you're supposed to do it. It's like, yeah, but you're also approaching it like an idiot. Like, if you're gonna go up, wear your main gear, and you're gonna sit in, you know, fucking cav gear, and you send cav, then yeah, the guy's gonna look at your gear and immediately know, okay, he's sending cav, send range. Like, if you make it so fucking easy for someone to look at you and know that, you know, a garrison's coming, that's, you know, the other problem. You know, and so then they're like, well, I'll just do this and do this, and then it's like, well, no, you're just wasting your fucking time at that point, because there's a way to do it. I have done garrison trapping so many times. You don't need to speed them in necessarily. Like a lot of people think you do, but no, you don't. You just, you know, you don't even have to go. I mean, yeah, you can change guilds if you want to. Sit guildless to bait a fucking march, fine. That's one way to bait, but still fucking a lot of fucking work for something that really doesn't need to be anywhere near that difficult. You just put enough resources on your account and make it enticing. Maybe put some troops on there. That's all you need. You don't need a whole lot of anything else. You don't have to add a whole lot more to it. And you don't even have to try. I mean, there's really not a whole lot. I could even probably do it on a solo trap like this, when it had like fewer than, say, 1.5 mil, and let it have all T2. I would be perfectly comfortable sending garrisons on it and not fear for its, you know, total loss, because it's like, if all it had was T2 on there and I just healed the T2 are cheap and inexpensive, so the garrison would just be taking all the legwork for me anyway. Now, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's like what you do and how you play the game. It's just, you know, it's kind of whatever you want to do. It's just, obviously, in this particular instance, we're going to be closer to 300 mil, I think, when it's all said and done. It's just, trying to be as efficient as possible on the hell events here and trying to get the most out of the scores. So, in the meantime, I'm gonna be right back. I gotta go run, do some fucking chores, I guess, and then I will be back. Um, that and my fucking rum cup's empty, so never, never go wrong with a little bit of something. I will be back. We'll be short. I expect to be back by 3 before Feudal starts. So you can rain hell upon me if I'm not back in 12 minutes. So I'll be back. Alright, I just got here just in time. Oh, fantastic. Fucking goddamn bot. Good thing I got thrown into the ether. Goody, goody, goody. Do that. Hold on. Alright, well, anyway. Yeah, I'm just doing the math in my head, right? It's costing me 5 million resources to make 4,712 units. And by that math, 4,712, and I'm going to take that number and probably try to 10x it, because I've already got, what, 200k? 100 times that will get me about what I want, which means I'm going to have to take 5 million, 100x that, which is a 500 million resource cost. So I'll be close to 1 billion when I'm all done. That's not fun, but I guess that is just kind of the upfront cost of building 470 some odd thousand. That was almost 5/4 though. Which sounds about right. But then I'm going to do that 3 times. So I'm going to have $1.5 billion devoted to just T4s. The problem there being is I don't use stone on imp. I do on how much that is that going to cost me though? So am I going to lose 500 mil there? But I will on the other two, so that's $1 billion. Timber's going to be awfully low. At least 2 types. I'm going to lose at least $1 billion there. So I'll be pretty low on ore, timber. It looks like ore and timber are going to be my worst bet. I need to supplement about $500 million off my main to be able to counteract that. But that's also a resource I probably don't have a lot of. Actually, I'm wrong. So I can take $250,000 or even $500 million and send that to Mickey. So we'll go ahead and do that. So let's just swap to our speed gear here. And we will swap for the, oh, I don't know. Let's see. I'll look for it actually. Where the fuck is that ability? Oh, there it is. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just dump 500 mil. Approximately. Onto Mickey to counteract that. I'm gonna lose 2.5 million per trade, and I'm gonna do this a handful of times. It's probably gonna be closer to 480, probably, but still, it's gonna be better than if I was gonna eat the cost completely. This is the best way to do it. And anyway, you see it, you're just, you know, it's always expensive to build troops. Never a cheap day in building troops. Never has been. Resources and everything aside, it's never a bright moment. But better. There. That empties up my main a little bit. Okay, so at this point, let's see here. So 3.46, we're going to build 200, 200, 200. What do I want to upgrade first? Do I want to do range first, or do I want to do cap first, or do I want to do M first? Well, let's do range first, I think. So that's not going to take any of my ore out, which is probably a good thing. I wonder, maybe I should probably should. I'll stifle the blow a little bit by 2 1/4 on timber, 500 on ore, and 2 1/4 on timber ought to be enough, I think. That way I've got enough bagged resources that Mickey can kind of rebound if we get hit a couple of times at least. It ought to be enough to survive. I mean, if I can't live on a 2 1/4 budget on that, then I'm gonna have to manage, I guess. Alright, here we go. Hold on a minute. That looks like one of my boosts went out. It didn't look great when I looked at it. Alright. That's the nice thing about a 20 boost, is that's 2 hours. The real trouble is that looks like I'm gonna be low on speeds. It means the rest of the cost is gonna have to be eaten up by probably somewhat gem, but also somewhat. It kind of be kind of interesting to see the least, I guess. We'll just see what happens, I guess. Whatever the outcome, we will make it work. That's really, if you think about it, $50, 125. If I burn through 300, it's really only going to cost you about $100 if you do it in one go, or it's like $25 over like a short period of time. Either way, money. That's the only problem, which I don't like doing, to begin with. But I don't know. I figure this might make some pretty interesting content. I don't think anybody's tried this shit before. There's a lot of rally traps, multi-rally traps that are like getting burned pretty hard, so if I can get away with it scot-free, people are probably going to wonder what the fuck happened, to some extent. I probably won't, though, even if I increase the infirm all the way. That's the only thing, is, you know, like, you can have a 684 infirm. Doesn't do you much good when you need to rebuild, though. In my experience, I like to put handful of manners in there just so that you can rebuild and re-heal faster and cheaper. It's a little bit more practical than the other alternative. And I'd rather lose troops than keep troops in this instance. So the magical number in this case is going to be 471, I think. But we're going to probably shoot a little higher than that, because we can. I'll gem the rest of it if I have to. Oh, yeah, we don't want to gem 23k though. That'd be a little on the pricey side. Always interesting how AGG is like, ah, yes, we will take all your gems for all these resources. It's like, why is that an option? Why does it have to be an option? Why do you take all my gems for resources? The stupid feature, it shouldn't even be there. Because now I have the fear of misclicking, and if I misclick, I'm gonna fucking hate it. And the only person I can blame is IGG. Not myself, of course, you know, because why would I do that? Blame myself or blame the fucking person that made it a feature. You guess your pick, but I'd argue the fucking person putting the feature in is the asshole here. It's just my 2 cents. I don't think my mistake is my mistake here on that front, I'm afraid. That's a feature fucking problem there. I didn't know any better. Anyway. We're almost half a mil. Okay, so there's 500,000 range. So now if I do another 200k, what's that gonna look like? Still gonna take a fair bite, but let's go ahead and do it. I'm gonna burn through probably almost all the speeds, but we'll just go ahead and do it. We'll be heavy on range. That's just the way it'll be. But I think it'll work. $530k. I can send out of him. $585. $589. Dipping below that 100 mark, so we're getting close. 600. There's 660. 65. 70. 75k. 680. Okay, there's 700,000. Now let's do the cab for the rest. To my mind, a range wedge is probably the only defense there that can be made. You can either do a range phalanx or a range wedge. An absolute worst case would be having to block a range march. But until I can buff the inf up, that's probably what will end up happening. There's 271. We're getting closer to that magical number. 285. 90. 95. 300. 4. 9. 10. 15. 23. 328. Oh, yeah, some headway, I guess. 32. I think we'll probably get close. I don't know if we'll hit right on, but we will be very close. It might fall short. It may be like 600K, but better than nothing. We'll just have to buy speeds. That's really what it'll come down to. We want to fully stack it out. Of course, I could also, do another week of this where I just wait, build, wait, build, wait, build, and until we get to our happy place, and then we'll call it a day. But I don't know. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. Almost 400K. Maybe right around 500K. Like, maybe. Definitely won't be far from it. Which is fine. I mean, that's not the greatest. I mean, granted, to take rallies, especially the superficial multi-rally, party rally trap type deals, like, we're going to need a lot more than this if we're going to be playing with fire. But not only that, we'll probably also need to be playing a little different ball game solo trap wise anyway, because we're words wise, statically, the totals are going to need to be adjusted, because I'll be needing to probably bring my stats up another 150, probably, be able to manage this efficiently without getting completely burned. But, I mean, working on gear is one thing, working familiars is another. I'd rather work familiars than I would than actual gear, though. Just because the expense on gear is not really all that worth it. When you've got artifacts involved, you probably mitigate it to some extent just by being practical. But you never know. We'll just have to kind of wait and see what we get away with here. Mind you, we're just using training speeds right now. We haven't even really dug into the other speeds yet, so we may still have enough to reach 700 maybe, but I'm somewhat doubtful, but we'll see. Okay. Why are we doing a day in 16? We're missing an hour there, so hold up. Run out of... I see. Yeah. If it wants me to do a day in 16, we can make that work. I don't want to waste. Not a moment of ours, not a damn thing. If I can avoid waste, I'm for it. Well, there's 500k. We're almost out of 8 hours. 3 more. And every march after that's gonna be... Oh, you motherfucker. Clicked on it too. God damn it. Get down to 1 day here. I hate when this game like fucking automatically just assumes, so let's just waste a day. Do you really think that's what I want to do, IGG? Waste a fucking 1 day speed? Is that really what I want to do? Really sure? The fact that it doesn't even warn you and it just goes through anyways. Testament to the stupid fucking goading that they've done, but... Like I said, at the end of the day, it's the end user that decides what goes and what doesn't, so it's not really their fault, but still kind of annoying. Alright, well, looks like we're going to be right at 550 right around. We're down near it, anyway. Like 17 more tries of that, it looks like. We might be able to get close to 600, maybe. And it's also only like, what, 1500 a pop? So, I mean, that's not terrible. Might be able to gem a quarter of it, like half of the gems I've got, maybe. Not counting what I can pull off main, probably. I'd more than likely get the 700k though. It's just the expense to reward ratio may be better off spent than actually gemming it. But I don't know. We may just do it either way. Just depends on what we get away with here. Looks like we're going to be right at 600. Alright, so 600k. So at this point, we've got 700k there, 600k here. 296, we're not even 300 mil. And I don't know, I mean, 3.5 mil on both sides. We've got 3.1 down the middle, and then 700k in range. Which those two in tandem might be enough. Maybe. Because if you think about it, 3.1 million. And you're going to take that and you're going to multiply that by what? 12 or something? Hold on, I gotta look. T3 might count, I always forget. It's 24. So I'm going to take that times 24. It's 74,400,000, and then I'm going to take that with 700,000 and multiply that by 36. It's 25. So I'm really looking at 74 million with 30. Oh, I didn't want to divide the fucking thing. God damn it. I hate that. 74 million plus 25. And then there's like what? Fucking a million there at 8. So that's another 8 million on top. Which actually conveniently happens to be right at 107 mil. Which, as you guys may recall, is about typical for a full T4 rally. But falls short of a full T5 by about 7 to 8 million or so. Which means that I'd be right on par if I took a range march. I'd be like dead set, almost on par. I wouldn't be terrible, but the only problem is I'm almost very easily going to dip into T2 reds. And the mill's not going to cut it. So we're going to bring that up to 3. That's what we're going to do next. Is we'll need to build 2 to 3 mil from that. And we can gem that, I think, to some extent. If I go on to Mickey here, I've got 600k in my main. I'm going to assume... I'll just go ahead and gem this. But I'm going to assume it's 10 hours. And if I want to make the most bang for my buck, I'm going to need to do probably right at 5k. 10 minutes. There's 20 minutes. 1,300 gems a pop. Hours on the clock. So for 8 hours, 1,000 gems roughly. Of course, that's with the resource spike, so it's probably much less than that, but if I were to dump, I gotta think here, right? Take our total, which is what? We're a million right now. We want to do probably 4, maybe 5 million. I want to do 4 million added. Divide that by our total, which is 3,866. It's going to be 1,035 times to do that. 1,035 times. Wow, that's a lot of 8 hours. Because that's going to cost, if I look on here, let me see. How much it would cost me to gem an 8 hour. 650 gems. That's 672,000 gems. I've got 600,000 gems, so I'd actually be able to make at least a majority of that. Huh. So if I gem it all the way, we'll have the right amount of T2. And then I might have to gem the remaining 72,000. But it's also going to be another... Not nowhere near as expensive on resources, but it'll still be there. But I'll only have 4 million range. And assuming I was anti-skated, which I probably won't be. Gonna make it a little bit more difficult. So I want to really buff my T2 counts up, I think. So once I get the 700k built, it's going to be the T2 counts that I'm going to need to buff up to make this trap work. Alright, well, where are we standing at on might? 296. And what I'm proposing to do is add 3 million, which is going to take 24 million on top of that, which would put me right at 330. Which, even for a rally trip, that sounds fucking hella low. That doesn't even sound like a rally trap at 330. So if I built, like, say, 8 million across, or even 10 million across, that's only going to add, what, 8 times 10 be 80, so it'd be 24, it'd be 240. I mean, it'd be some might, I guess, but... Alright, well, how many speeds do I get? 925. Oh, and there went all my gems. Oh, shit. Alright, well, here we go. It's just going to be the monotony of having to do an 8-hour like 925 times until we have the correct amount of T2. But that's fine. I don't think it'll be that bad, though, once it's all said and done. This is gonna be a lot of monopoly of just having to sit here and click on a button 900 times. Oh joy. It's a clicking simulator today. Oh joy. Yeah, Mr. Beast really should probably take a look and see if anybody could, like, make a video out of this. Yeah, so I fucking built like 1 billion troops, and I clicked on this button a fucking billion times. Like, yeah, that's really fucking annoying. But here we are. It's a feature, kind of part of the game. So go figure. I guess on the bright side, we'll at least have 4 million T2 range, which will make our comp comparable, and it should be able to eat a rally without too much trouble. At least to an extent, anyway. I probably won't be able to do anything T5 wise yet, but not gonna be far off. If I work on the T2 counts on the others, I think it'll be able to manage. I probably buff the T4 count up a bit, it'll help. I want to get 2 over the top though. But at the right amount, I think we'll be okay. It's gonna take some time. 888 times to go. Do 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 do. Okay, okay. Well, let's see. One six. Kind of feel like it'd be faster if instead of doing speeds, I just sat here and gemmed it. But either way, it's just gonna be painful any way you look at it. Really, not really a way around this, unless you just gemmed it. But you know, it's like what, a quarter, 200K or so just to get that many, and then you buy a $5 pack and you get 75K. So I guess a person could, in theory, do it. Wouldn't be impractical anyway. Could be done. If there's anything I've learned from this, though, it's going to be my T2 count needs to be closer to 6 mil. And then I need to bring my T4 count on Inf up to 700K and my cabs up by 100K. There's more than likely going to take, at least based on how many it took this time around, another 300 days worth of speeds, which is another $20 pack, $5 pack twice in a row. It would probably equate out to be about 50 bucks. Just to be able to build it into something that could just eat a rally, not multiple rallies out of that. This T2 count shit that I'm doing here, I'm thinking in terms of what happens when I don't account for what happens when oh, say I get hit by somebody that's awfully prepared. I want to be able to at least hold my own should I need to. Range cap is kind of my mind, so I'm thinking if I got 3.25 there, 6.25 there, it's not going to be great, but it'll be better than nothing. And I can manage with that, I think. It's just going to be a little dicey because if you don't account for the event that you get hit in range, for example, that's going to be the most priciest one of the bunch. But range and range, I should be able to suffice that type of hit in theory. It won't be pretty though, because there's not a shit ton of imp. At least not right now, anyway. Still probably another good 2 weeks out before this camp is done, but it'll be practical here, unless I do it today. I don't know. Depends. I don't think I will though. I'll probably wait this out. I'll probably draw it out. What I'll do, make it more viable, because otherwise the alternative is not so cheap. That's the thing about this game. It doesn't reward you for being in a hurry. Like even now, I could probably, you know, instead of doing them all at once, we could just sit here and do it at some other time, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I just feel like, yeah, let's just go ahead and burn through all the speeds while we got them. Not really any sense in not doing it. And while I could add another 200%, I mean, that's also another 2 manners, 3 manners at least, which is another 15,000 gems, which is another almost a week's worth of speeds per building. Which, I don't know, I mean, I mean, a person could do it, but why would you want to? Just almost enough to argue, maybe, but not enough for me anyway. I just don't see the point. feel like I am going the slowest fucking way possible. It just takes so fucking long. I'm gonna gem some of this because this is just fucking painful to me. Right? I'd rather it just not take this long. Um, much faster. It's like I fucking just can't stand how long it takes. A lot faster. I'll just do that. That's maybe a little too much. Let's try like try 50 mil. Burning through it fast enough that I don't think there's enough loss there to be a problem. Alright, then we're gonna have to take it down a notch. And, so that pretty much takes the time out of that away. We'll just have to get some gems. Fine. Can manage that, I think. Uh, 3.858. That's not far from it. I mean, at least 4 mil anyway. In fact, even with all the extra 8 hours, we might actually be able to build the T4. The 100k or so that we needed. Our cav lines done, and we might even get some of the if done a little bit. So we're at least on greener pastures there. Definitely want to make sure we get our front line on range up to par. If I can get it to at least 3.9, I'll stop. For now, anyway. Okay, that should be 3.9. Be a good stopping place for that. Work on the T4 here.
Can you check if the laundry's
Yeah, I'll check on it here in a bit. Yeah, I think we'll be able to stop of this anyway. In fact, I can even probably off of this and do like 16. Just a little bit more. That'll get me about 5K a piece there, at least. Looks like we'll be tapped out of gems, resources, and everything else in between for a little while, but that's fine. It'll just be a little bit of time and recovery while we build up our bags again and work on our resource count and everything, but we'll get there. Okay. That'll be 700K. And the remaining of the 8 hours we can use to get the infantry into par. Or try to get them at least close anyway. There's 258. I'm thinking we can probably get it almost complete, maybe. Well, I don't think we're running out. We'll probably get our almost all the way done, I think. Even with the 8 hours and shit. We should be fine. We'll get close anyway. Half a million gems and 300 frickin' days worth of speeds, but hey, it's not too bad, I guess. Where are we at on might, I wonder? We're only 331. It's really not that bad. Probably stop when I get to 350. When I'm at 500k T4 imp, I think. Roughly. I'm gonna be far off though. I very well might be able to hit right on the money with the proposed comp that we had initially started off with. So we might hit it right on the money, maybe. Gonna be awfully close anyway. In other words, that might count at 335. That's still not too bad. Keep going. What the fuck? Oh, nice. I crashed it. That's funny. There actually is a point at which one will crash if you fucking sit there and do it long enough. Oh shit. That's funny. Oh, I don't like that answer. Oh, that might be why, because the boost went off and I clicked and it crashed. As I clicked on it the same. Okay, so just so IGG's aware, there's a runtime condition there where if you hit it exactly at the same time you click, your your game breaks. That's funny. Is that the way that the API calls work? It it'll crash on you. That's nuts. That's a lesser known thing. I also noticed that it's a lot faster now. It's a lot more responsive than it was earlier. Or it was like fucking getting slow. There's got to be a memory leak of some kind there for that to occur. I bet you there's probably a bug there of some kind that someone probably could cheap out on. Like if you hit the runtime just at the right time, at the right way, it probably doesn't know any better. That's funny. Here I'm thinking IGG is competent enough to know that, but probably not. Looks like we'll have a little extra. Which should work fine, because need the little extra for this shit. Alrighty. What the fuck? Game's just like, oh yeah, we'll just automatically unlift your lock for you. Wait, no, that's not what I wanted. Like, there. Really, the only reason we're doing this is just because I care about the number being a round number. Like, I want it to be 4 mil, damn it. I want it to be off by like 100k. I want the number to be just right. Which naturally also means that it's going to be a little bit more expensive to do, but okay. At least it'll be right. Yeah, this is fine. 4 mil. All right, so now we are at a point where we got 700k across, and we have 4 mil there. We are 342 million, so we are just shy of 350 million, but that's a relatively comfortable amount of mind, I think. And like I expected, we're going to be low on stone and timber. Ore's going to be fine because I kind of fit the bill for that, but 925 8 hours or 601,000 gems later and 300 days of speeds, and you too can have a rally trap, not counting all the money invested into making it into a solo trip. So yes, now we're going to be hemorrhaging fucking resources for the next week probably while we prepare for that in mind. But the nice thing is now we know that and we can prepare for that, so we can kind of supplement our resources and our gains, buy the packs for a little while, and we'll be just fine and dandy. The only thing I probably need to work on now is I need to work on the familiars. More specifically, I need to finish Shaman, and then I need to get Tailwind completed. And then we need to work on probably artifacts, and I would assume gear. The gear's okay, but it's not great. So, aside from that, that's pretty much where we are on that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to point us at the feudal battle real fast. We can kind of get an idea of what's going on there, and I will be right on back. Alright, well, I'm back. So, what do we got on our hands here? Looks like a complete sausage fest. We got SGB. We got dash G. Then MXG. Plus G plus. MXG's looking to be up to no good, as per the usual. Wearing one piece of gear. So, Mr. Peanut, why do you wear one piece of gear? Why do you do this? Who does this? I guess he's just having a blast, isn't he? Kind of wonder what it's like there, but since, like I had explained earlier, doing the math on this, while this might be able to handle a T4 march, I don't know if it'll handle a T5. It might, but it's probably pushed my luck. Because the more I think about it, right, it's 48 might. Going back to the calculator, right? I mean, basically what I'm saying is if you take 48, let's assume for a minute it was mostly T5. It would probably be like 1.8 or something like that. Or even 2 mil. But let's just say it's just 1.8. That's 86 million. The remainder is going to be supplied by the T4s, which on 1.8, that gives you like, what? 575,000? Which is another 20 million. 86 million my total. Which is 106 million, right? And my current composition is doing 700,000, which is 25 million. And then my range march that I've got in here, just for this one instance, is 3.1 on 24. So, 74 million plus the 25 million is 99 million. And then the remainder is in T2. So you take 99 million plus your 8 times 4 mil, which is 32. It'd be 131, right? Or am I getting that wrong? This would be 4 mil times 8. That would be about right, yeah. 8, yeah. It'd be 131. I think we'll handle T5, I think. Because even a full T5 isn't 131. It's actually 114, right? So 131 on 114. 17. I mean, I'm like, I think this is the comp that I want, right? Because old T4 counts were 17 mil on the barrier. So this is 17 mil on the barrier. So what I need to do now is I can leave it the way it is, build 500k across riders and gladiators, and try that out and see how it works. This, in theory, I think will work. I don't think this won't work. I think this will work. The only question is what's going to happen when, okay, you hit imp and you go cav, or you go range and you go imp. I already know what'll happen if they go cav. They're a fuck duck if they go cav. If they go cav, they're gonna learn to regret that decision quite drastically. But the big question is now, does that mean I need to have 3.1 in these two slots? Or do I need to have the equivalent of 3.1, which is 75 or so million into T4, which would be about double. So it's either 1.5 mil in 2 slots here, or 3.1 mil down here. Now, if I want to stay low, it's not going to make any difference. The only benefit of doing 3.1 down here is if it, for some reason, trickles, then the T3 are going to trickle, and that's probably not very good, because the likelihood that it does trickle is more likely than it is not to trickle, but that's assuming you get countered. So I think in a perfect world, I mean, if you were to get rid of your buffer and double down on T4, you're just adding another, what, 700,000? So you're going to add like another 70 million twice, which is another 140 million, which is going to be three. It's going to be closer to 500 million, probably. Like 510, 520 in that range. I'm pretty excited that we came shy of 350 though. But so now the question is okay, on par, rally traps, stats aside, let's actually look and see what's my best case scenario stat wise. That best case scenario, I'm looking at 388, 407, 347. So my cav is my weakest link on stats. 163, 191, 148, 182, 175, 189. I got more HP on cav though. Yeah, my core stats are a little fucky there, aren't they? So I'm doing 159, 183, 342. But a core of 190. So if I need to tweak anything, I really need to be tweaking the cav damage or so. Which I can do that by getting rid of the drum. I could tweak it by putting in an ambrosial cup. Take the vial out. I'd have to figure out what I want to do there. Accessories. And the other thing is jewels too. Because there's a fair amount of jewel bonuses there I'm not getting that I don't have. Pretty sure if I had gold jewels that'd make a pretty big a difference, but oh, I don't know. It's the only problem. Let's see, if I was to do a major tweak to my gear, I'm gonna have the luxury of anything major. I don't want to get rid of cav damage, I just want to buff it. There's just not a way to do it in this instance because I've got infinite range. I mean, there's really no other way to do it other than to pop out an accessory. I already got the codex. I could swap it for this and then give me 20% army HP. But then I lose 35% range, which isn't really a great trade-off. I don't want to get rid of the wing yet. Or what if I was to get rid of the blight rune? Like the newer sets, Arctic Flipper Polar Ring is what I need. But I need like a decent version of it. I need like a gold version of the Polar Ring. Which I'm not going to be able to do because you need 18 fucking legendaries to do that. Which is way too many legendaries. There's no way in hell I've got the money to do that. So I have to find a smoother passage. Maybe what I do is, since I know cav attack is lower, I could try and get Nostros up to par and grab lightning attack. So that when 5% drops, I'm buffing the cav HP and the cav attack. Then I'd have to swap out what I'm using for wall, where I get my 4th slot, and then I pretty much have every scenario covered. So then I'd be doing 60 onward of what I've got, which is 440 something, so that'd be closer to 510. And then 60 on HP, which would put me closer to 2. Fuck, I forget, what was it? HP wise, where am I at on that? Because I've got 342 coming in from there, but then I've got 180 something here. So if I added 60 to that, even like 90% would be a pretty substantial difference. Because those guys are packing 350, so if I was near 300, I'd be a little bit better off. But that only lasts for such and such amount of time anyway. It'd be a short-lived gain. So if I went to artifacts, say I bonused. That's the other thing, is it like leader bonus and everything else? I mean, there'd be a fair amount of stat gain there, but what's the current stat bonus? So I've got 2, 3, some 10% fury and shit, but the actual bonuses to HP right now are 10, 20, but my range HP is really fucking low. So I could probably invest a bit into range HP a bit. A little bit into the attack stats some, but the HP would be a pretty significant jump. Because if I want to bring that up, I'm going to bring it up like 200 or 300% rather than the current 180 that it's on. Which means I've got some jewels I need to work on. Hero-wise, I mean, I'm not a firm believer in swapping heroes. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of gain in it. I mean, what I've got, Demon Slayer, it's not much better. I mean, I'd love to fucking put in like someone like Loreweaver in there at least once. Then I'd be swapping for a pair of cabs with a pair of range instead of should probably be done. I have to be swapping out. So if I'm not mistaken, this guy here's already parked on he is DPS wise. I could always make Snow Queen my lead. Just to see what that stat looks like even. Because if he's doing 50-30, I mean, there is an instance where I could go into the extremes with a full set of range and then probably be helpful, but oh joy, I don't know. I can grab these since we've got our bonuses there. Got our reloads and everything, so that'll be good. And really all we gotta do now is just basically build up our gem count again. Gotta build up gems, build up resources. And then we gotta work on gear and fine-tune the comp a bit. I don't think there really needs to be a whole lot of tweaking done on it though. I just think it's mostly gear at this point. It's mostly stats. That's gonna be, if there's gonna be a problem, it's gonna be the stats. It's gonna cause the most problems at this point. Current infirm is 428, which I mean, I might want to break one of my manners and take a manner instead, and then I'll just have the lesser. Oh, these fucking bots! God damn it! There's just no fucking end to them. Go ahead and grab our 15-minute boosts, I guess. Back to resource-wise, I mean, I'm doing okay. Food, it's just stone and timber are going to be a little on the lighter side for a little while. And really all I gotta do now is just find a practical solution to upgrading gear. Because if I could bring this up, say if I brought these jewels up, that'd be 8% per piece. So there's 8, 16, 24%. And it's probably across the board, so there's 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, and then 60, what, 67, 68? 64, I think. Which, off the top, 64%, and I'm already at, like, 450 something? or not even at. So that would be a pretty substantial jump. Especially when people are pushing like 800–900%, like that would make a pretty big difference. But it's gonna be that minutia of a difference. It's gonna make the most amount of difference when I'm building it up. Just gonna take some time to get to that point, unfortunately. Well, I'm assuming I did gear every day. Like, what we want to strive for is buffing up cav. I also want to try and buff up imp and range all at the same time. The only thing I can do really to get out of that crux is going to be increasing the That's the only other problem too. So like you really won't be able to leverage it, even if you were to get the gear on. You're not going to be able to leverage the best scenario more than likely. But the thing to keep in mind here is that like when you're thinking about where you are in relation to your opponent, that's a pretty big deal because most of the time it's this base number here that you're playing with, which is 150, 144, and 138. These are your base numbers that you, regardless of your leader, this is what ultimately is going to make the most amount of difference when you're getting hit. So like right now I'm popping 150, 190. So if I'm going to be pulling off rallies and blocking them, I'm going to certainly need the actual either the infirmary space and I can buff up HP to do it, or I need to really just work on jewels, buff up the 10 to 20% I don't get, you know, because there's a little over 40% there that I could recapture, you know, because that's per stat too. It's like 40% across. Put me in the 450 range if I got the actual gear jewels done. It'd be like 450, but I really think if I were to do talents as opposed to gear, benefit of doing this is if I were to get this even up a little ways, the core bonuses that come out of this would outlive the gains that I would get anywhere else. Even this is kind of tempting, but very rarely ever going to be inferior. So that's 3.2%. Anytime it's something like that, I'll upgrade it, enhance it, you know, but it's gonna be like 4 or 5% here and there. It's like it'll trickle. The only problem with the fucking artifacts is it's like, yeah, that's where the money's at, but you're also gonna have to swallow the pill, which is a pretty substantial chunk of that is also going to be devoted to cash. You went that route. So I think, at least for now, to be on the practical side as far as this comp goes, I mean, honestly, I'll probably, you know, if a single rally comes at me, great, but I won't probably try and eat it just yet. It can probably take a rally, though. If it was like a calf march, it'd be the best ordeal situation, which, I mean, if I want to invoke that idea, I probably need to be sitting at imp. So, and we'll just kind of see what happens. Anyway, that's pretty much that. I mean, it's, you know, basically that was like 1 million or so gems for context, because I had like, what, 300,000? Maybe not even that. It was like 400,000 gems on this. So it was right at 1 million gems. and then 300 days worth of speeds off of this account alone to just be able to produce the composition that you're seeing on your screen right now. So a million gems and 300 days worth of speeds, and you can have this composition built. The problem now is going to be how do you maintain it, and then also how do you deal with the people that are 70, 100%. I've already kind of think that the comp that I've got for T5 right now, that might be able to stop T5. Just barely. But what it won't do is if I'm on par. If I'm on par, it'll work. Like if I'm pushing 700, 800%, this will probably stop a T5 rally in its place. And I'll probably, as long as I'm in counter and everything else, I will more than likely walk away with that almost scot-free. Just about. I'll probably push my luck with 400,000 wounds, but anybody that's taking a rally probably shouldn't care about wounds, because chances are you're going to take a shitload of roads anyway. That's why they build a lot of T2. It's just kind of it's the nature of the game. At this point, the only thing I can do that's really minutia bonusing at this point is going to be probably upgrading my familiars. So we need to be working on probably Nostros and getting him worked on. We definitely want to start building up packs for that. I probably want to see if I can get my minutia bonuses on our buddy Opal Jade Worm. Now, I would say that, people would probably look at this and go, well, why not get the 9%? That may not be worthwhile, but I don't know. Because it reduces damages inflicted by enemies by about 10%. Only when 4% of your troops have fallen. That doesn't seem like a bad thing, but you also have to recognize that 10% infliction isn't necessarily that big of a deal. When someone's doing 800 to 900% off of you, a 10% gain is not that big of a deal, as opposed to like getting a 60 for 15-second type bonus. This stat here makes a hell of a lot more sense to me, because that's not 60 attack, it's 60 HP too. So if I can pack Mole Shaman, upgrade them all the way, then do Nostros, I think those three in tandem will be pretty damn helpful. Now, don't get me wrong, I got Gryphon, but that's also 10 seconds of 200. And that's, while helpful, I don't know if I can really upgrade that all the way without having some problems along the way. And maybe IGG will have something in time that'll work out for me with Mecha Trojan Title or Grim Reaper. Depending on what they decide to do with those army talents, that's going to determine how I proceed with that next. The only question is now whether or not was Helldrider a worthy option. But I'm looking at that, and I'm assuming I went down that route. Helldrider is going to give me 7% of drop before he'll petrify a single squad for 11 seconds. I don't know, a 15-second jump, 11-second drop. Venom from Mega just doesn't click in. It takes way too long for it to queue in. Same thing for shields. Like, they take too long to queue in. Great if you're an offensive player, terrible if you're a defensive player. I mean, I think the most practical bonuses right now are Nosceros and our buddy Opal, Mole Shaman, and our goddamn Malgus. I'm thinking that's probably what we do. It's only really practical for me right now to probably just continue using this combination, but I would say the only other thing I could think of is, which is probably relatively inexpensive, is to just start gathering. It's really the only way to do it. Is to just start gathering and just basically take the gain. Now the other question is now which that's going to give me coal, minerals, and metal. One thing that's always irked me is the fact that my construction set's not actually complete. So if I could work on that simultaneously, that'd be pretty fucking helpful. So I need metal, copper, linen. So I'm going to need food and coal. Every day I'm going to have to remind myself I need to do ore and I need to do farms. Then gold, I don't think gold has anything meaningful for me, but I'm wrong. I need to be gathering ore every day. I don't think he feather logs in ancient parks, so I don't really need wood per se. Just need farms and rich veins. That's really all that matters. About what are this? That'd be your copper coils, which I mean, you get copper coil, that'd be great, but beggars cannot be choosers in the third. I'll worry about the copper probably once I get done with the first slot upgrade. Every upgrade afterwards is really the only time when it'll ever really be relevant. Okay. And we'll just kind of let that sit on the fence. And got exactly 10,000 gems to get through a week here. That'd be enough to hold us by. We'll have to figure something out on my main because I don't think I have gems on here. It's not mean I can't magically whip up 1,000 gems. I'm sure I can find a way. Might be a challenge. I don't know. Guess I could probably just check in on it. I've got, well, I got some 14 days. I'll just do that. 14 day. That'll be out of sync, but at least I can cover it for a week and then deal with it then. When's the next drop? 20 days from now. The other thing I can do is probably pop my familiar abilities. And then I should be able to make 2 to 3k a day every couple of days, right? I believe the Struck of Luck is here in 2 hours. I gotta do a 2-day timer on that. So in a week's time, I'll have recouped it. Roughly. Like about a quarter of it, anyway. But the only thing I can do is probably just keep going down in Kalo, which I'm already down to the 600s on my main, so we're really not doing that bad. I'll go ahead and close my main account. So that takes my main account. This is all of that. About the only other thing, really, those of you watching on stream, is just recognize that whenever you're trying to build a trap account, one of the most expensive things you're going to end up spending the most on is the troops. Because more often than that, you're going to lose them a lot faster than you make them. With any luck, Guildfest will hopefully supplement some of the cost of the speeds, which we'll probably get plenty of over the span of a week, since I went ahead and decided to grab the weekly pass for the speeds, which, looking back on that now, it's probably not the greatest decision, but it was only $4, which, to be honest with you, anything's better than nothing, I guess. About the only thing now at this point is we're going to be needing to foster the gear, and we're going to need to be working on our gathering. That's really all there is to it. Outside of that, should be good to go. I would say about the only other thing beyond burning 1,000,000 gems and about 300 days, you know, basically a year's worth of speeds, is when you want to build a comp like this. The composition that I've laid out right now, I'm pretty sure we'll take a T4 rally. I don't think it'll take T5 just yet. And even in the best situation, I don't know if core stats are good enough to be taking rallies just yet. It's a little low. Like, I'm probably going to dip. If I get countered, I'll lose like 2.5 mil to 3 mil very quickly. Like, I'll lose that whole front in a single rally. So it's by no means is this a multi-party rally trap by any means, but as long as it's in counter, it should be able to take a single rally without too much trouble. I really just need to probably work on, not necessarily the gear. I mean, it's kind of like I need the gear, but I don't need the gear at the same time. Because most of the time, you're not going to have the luxury of using the gear. You won't have enough time to swap before they canceled it. And so it's like you're kind of having to fight with the actual composition of the account along with the stats. I mean, if I can work on core stats with artifacts over time, actually maybe practical. Trying to think of what the best way to do that would be. Because I guess you could, a person could basically, what they would do is they would buy the 30-day supply chest, get 12,000 artifact coins every day, and then they'd go into here. They grab probably not the monthly gold pass or the silver pass. I mean, you could, I guess, because that's what 3,000 gems and then a 2,400 gem drop every 30 days, which is 25,000, I guess. 2,400 a day. On 10 days, that's 24,000. 3 times that is 25k. They're shitting. I'm gonna shit on them a little bit. Their math is off. That should be 25. There's no way you're getting 75,000 out of 2,400. I don't know how you. I mean, the initial 3k sure is maybe where you're. Man, that's probably how they're factoring it. You give them 3k from the get-go, and then 2,400 every day afterward. Either way, that's kind of pushing it. But like, for example, like the training pass, I'm gonna grab that. Right, that's 440 total, which is 440. Like you were seeing earlier, I just burned 300 days, so 440 hours is really nothing more than, to make some sense of that, right? Take 440 divided by 24, it's 18 days. Yeah, it's not a whole lot. Or actually, yeah, because that's not really a whole lot. It's also only $4. So 18 days for $4 is not that bad. But what I'm tempted to do is like packs like these where it's $20 for 3,600. You get 8 100s a day. Right? Well, no, it's not. Never mind. Scratch that. It's 8 for the first go. So you're 800 the first day and then 400 every day afterward. Which, for Astrolite, I don't even bother. And this is the weakest of the weakest. It's only relevant if you're going to put a shitload of Astrolite into the game, but most people don't. And even then, I don't know what the gains are. I need to look at a chart and see what the difference is between tier 10 and tier 5. I can't imagine there's a significant bonus there, but maybe there is. I don't know. I just don't think the cost associated to that's worthwhile, but I need to go back and look. Maybe there's... Oh, fuck it. You know what? Let's just do it while we're on stream. Somebody's done it. I know somebody's done it by now. Yeah, it looks like Sparty's got his video on the subject matter. Cost breakdown of Astrolite of all relevant gear pieces. And he did this when? 11 months ago. So somebody's sat down and looked at the numbers, but let's see what the spreadsheet has to say about it. Okay, so like all gear Astrolite. I don't know how the fuck you're using this, but let me just look at it. See how the fuck did they organize? So from 0 to 1, fuck is the stacking? That's Astrolite cost, but that doesn't tell me what the stat gains are. This is cost. That's I see. I follow. Okay, I see how you organized it. It's a little fucky, but so you're going from a base stat at Mythic at 28, and at 12 you go from 28 to 40, and that's interesting because 42 to 60. So in most cases, it's about a 20% gain. 10% gain in some places. So it's 10-20%, and that's for how much? Fucking what? You need to tell me to go from 0 to 1, 12. You spend 155 astrolite on the dragon pit. That's 193.75. Am I reading that correctly? Is that 1,903.75? Where is that? The fuck does that mean? Of course, this is 11 months ago, so fucking cost-wise is probably not entirely accurate anymore either. But because now it's like here we're talking about 30 astrolite for $30, right? And this is telling me it's 132 astrolite to go from 11 to 12. 748 astrolite in, say, the case of the Beast Home, or 562 in the case of either way, right? And then this is just being patient, and you're not an idiot, and all that jazz. You're getting 30 astrolite a month, or is that a week? Week. 30 astrolite a week. So if I did this pack for $30, I'm going to take 748 and divide that by 30. It'll take 24 weeks, which divided by a year, right? There's like, what, 3 weeks in a month? That's like fucking 8 months of $30 packs. 8 times 30, $240 just to upgrade one piece of gear. Well, and that's for 20%. So 20%, $200. And that's with the weekly pass. This is probably not the best deal you can get, but that's a consistent pack. It's not very good, though. I'm sure it's probably not as good as some packs that come through in the system every once in a while. I'm sure you could probably get like a brilliant astrolite chest or something like that. Slow dice roll it and get a few hundred astrolite. For example, like here, if you get a bunch of ones, fine, but every once in a while you'll get a 20 or a 60, and that makes a huge fucking difference. Because if you just slow roll it and you get a 60, then you're effectively saving yourself 2 months worth of fucking packs for $60, but the likelihood you hit that is almost little to none, right? That's my thought. Which doesn't seem like a very practical thing to do. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's just... that sounds like a really stupid thing to do. It's there, but it's like the cost associated to it's too high. But for 20%, I guess I could see why people are doing it. Because once you've hit the upper echelon of a certain stat, if you're 20% up, that'll add up. Same reason why I'm thinking, well, fuck, I'm losing 8, what, 40% roughly. I mean, I'm groaning over jewels, and that's just 40%, and astrolite's another 20. Now, artifacts are an interesting thing to think about because I wonder how much you would need to spend. Has anybody done a video on that, I wonder? Artifacts. That's... no, I don't want Genshin. I want more. Fucking damn it. Mention artifacts, and of course Genshin apparently seems to have some fucking convoluted system of their own. Alright, what's the best artifacts to upgrade? Why? And how much? We're getting here stat-wise. The question. I tell you a million different ways to fucking get them, but now what kind of stats are we getting here? That's all said and done. Okay, so like King Strategy, Prophet Monolith, and Ancient Calendar, those are all 20%. And they're fully maxed out. You do Athena's Compass, that's 16. Sandstone, that's 24. Slumbering Step is 24. Eternal Gaze is 24. Wing Sandal, the Wild Spirit, and the Spiders, and 24. Mind you, those are also defense bonuses, not just attack. Telescopes are 30% apiece. Based on this, the collective stat gain from all the legendary pieces is a little over, at least based on what I'm looking at here. Not counting some of the major pieces, but let's assume I just ignored all the Battle Fury related ones. There's at least 48. So, no, 60. 62? Is that what if I'm looking at that right? 48, 62. Yeah. There's 62%. Well, and that's also in two stats though at the top. So 62 and then 24, but just for a single unit type is pretty significant. There's about 60% there in artifacts that's untouched. And if you're doing the little ones, that's 72%, 82%, 92%, 102%, 111%, not counting Sherry. That'd be 117%. It's an attack. And this is where people are getting got, pretty much. Because there's like 117% in attack stats that you're getting from artifacts. You know, so you're getting 20% in Astrolite when it's maxed out. And like I was saying earlier, you could probably spend 240 over the span of 8 months, and you could have, you know, a single piece of gear on Astrolite done. Chances are you'd probably buy through packs and do that at the same time to speed it up. You're probably spending somewhere around $800 to $900 just in Astrolite. Artifacts, you're looking at like, because of the nature of the fucking dice roll system, that's probably going to be expensive as fuck too, for an entirely different reason. But assuming a person slow rolled that, I mean, and did the most they could, you're probably going to buy a 30-day pack, which is going to cost you $10. And then you're probably going to go in, I would assume, it's probably that fucking icon. I'm gonna find that goddamn icon. The 7-day dash is $24.50 for $2. You're gonna get $350 plus $350 to make $600 or so a day. Not counting, you got this weekly pass. I'm gonna go ahead and collect mine. But then you can add another 400 on top of that. So really, you could be doing a dice roll of what, 4 to 5 times a day by having a $20 weekly pass, a $10. So that's $32 a week. Or no, it's 20 a week, but it's 32 up front. So it's more like fucking what, $2 a month and $10 a month. Well, so now really you're $12 a month, $20 a week, 20, 40, 60. So it's more like $72 a month. Retrospectively, if you're thinking of if maintaining it, it'd be 72 a month. And that's in the best, absolute best scenario, not counting packs. That's just going off of their existing systems. So 72 a month, and you're getting like fucking 800 or 900 a day. and artifact coins, which doesn't sound like a lot, really, when you look at it, because you're spending $72 a day for something that you can buy for $5 a day. So you could buy that for 15 bucks. So you're spending $72 to get something that costs $5 a day.
They're done.
Okay. Anyway, the cost associated to that in relation to what you get is like fucking skewed so goddamn much. It would be like easily $100 a month without really a whole lot of room. I don't know if artifacts are going to be an angle either. I think the cheapest alternative right now is going to be probably working on the jewels, because that'll give me 40% there. So we'll work on jewels, and then we'll probably need to work on gems too. But I'm thinking that's probably going to be our next step, is just work on our jewels, and then we'll probably work on gear somehow. I don't know when I'll ever do that. I'll probably never do it. I'm just too fucking tight on that for my own good, but as far as the cost associated to it, I don't know if anybody else has got any cost saving tips or anything, but if you do and you happen to know a thing or two about Astrolate and Artifact, as far as pack recommendations go, I'm all ears. Because that's probably the only other way out of this, and it's just going to be a question of like, what's the best way about tackling that? Because about the only thing I haven't accounted for between everything else that I showed is actually what's in the where's that fucking thing? Logging gifts. Because you've got logging gifts for another $2 you get for 30 days, as well as what you can get in labors, which should also, well, for an entirely different reason, this would give you access to a fair amount too, but the main thing for that is Technolobs, which for practicality I don't think there's really much use in. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you found the video somewhat interesting. Maybe it got you thinking a thing or two like it did me. But I'm now just going to have to figure out what I'm going to do next and how we're going to go about doing it. So, see you guys.